All right, so you want to buy a truck, but it has to check a few boxes. It's got to be a Crewmax because you got a family and everyone's got to fit in there. It's got to be a 4x4 because men don't buy two-wheel drive. And last but not least, it's got to be a leather interior because no one... All right, so you bought a truck, but you had to make a compromise. It wasn't gonna be the Crewmax because you got a family and everyone's got to fit. It wasn't gonna be two-wheel drive because you're a man and you need 4x4. So you're left with cloth interior. Luckily, that's easier to change than you think. My name is John Connie, aka Big Man Syndrome, and this is Prjct.Garage. Sounds like a TV show, and this is Prjct.Garage. What's up, crew? Welcome back to Prjct.Garage, a channel for all the money pits of the world. Today, we are working on Project Track Day, which I think I'm going to be changing the name soon, but we'll talk about that later. Taking care of the second compromise that I had to make, the interior.
Watching things unfold like a wallet with $1 in it. You find your mama and your papa did it. Their piece of the pie had devil's chocolate in it. A shot of vodka to keep the doctor splendid. No fingers pointed. The expected condition of ungodliness carried through the times, locked inside of our unconsciousness. The
first one was the wheels, which actually was a surprise for me because the pictures looked okay. Walked up to it, I was like, oh my god, those are bad, and immediately ordered some methods. Those came out awesome, changed the stance completely. It looks incredible.
We ride this roller coaster, barely holding on. Wonder how we hope it all, homie. The whole of your soul is gone. That don't rip you.
Next step is to make sure we change this. Cloth interior is just not bougie enough. We need to fix that. Through my shopping, it seemed for the price range, you either had to get leather interior with two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive with cloth interior. I went with the latter because, well, swapping to four-wheel drive seemed ridiculous. Luckily, swapping interiors is much easier, and thanks to Katzkin, it's even better than it used to be. Before, if you wanted to change your interior, you had to either shell out several grand for just a leather swap. That means no accessories, no special stitching, or contrast coloring. Or you went the cheap route and got an oversized seat cover that just never looked good. Ask my high school self. I did a very cheap modification to my first car, which, mind you, was a Toyota Corolla, like a 92. It just never looked good. It was always moving around, and yeah, so going the super cheap route is just not worth it. And of course, you could take a crack at full DIY. I definitely considered it, looked up pricing for a sewing machine, and just, you know, no thank you. Now, this kit wasn't cheap, but for the size of the project, it had immense value. Katzkin has the entire interior covered for a handful of makes and models. This is down to the style of the interior, like bench versus segmented. Type of interior format? This is down to the setup of your interior, like bench seat versus segmented. Now, if you are DIY savvy, you can save a lot of money on the install and reallocate that to some pretty cool features like heated or cooled seats, as well as that diamond text stitching. On my set, I kept it a little bit simple. I was gonna go with the diamond text stitching, but I kind of vetoed it at the last minute. I did go with perforated body, which looks super, super clean. Contrast stitching, so black on black, leather with white stitching, as well as heated and gel inserts. Yet again, this video is coming out a little bit differently than I had planned. I had an audio hiccup in one of the recordings. And Katzkin has the entire interior, which is, that's tongue twister. And the install actually became a lot more of a wrestling match than I thought it was going to be, so that kind of threw off the flow of recording and installing at the same time. Oh my gosh. But I was still able to get everything fully installed, all DIY, with just a little bit of blood, sweat, and tears. Literally, I cried a little. So here are some guidelines from a disclaimer, non-pro upholster, if you are fully bought into doing this DIY. Number one, start in an area you aren't super worried about. There's going to be a lot of learning as you go depending on the intricacy of your vehicle's interior. The Tundra wasn't too bad, but with each section I learned something new. To kick things off, I just randomly decided to do the middle back headrest. to really just test out whether or not I needed a special tool like the steam gun I've seen on several videos. I'm assuming that makes it easier to put the leather around something tight like the headrest, because this is a piece where you don't remove the original fabric, you just wrap the new leather piece on top of it. And then once I found time, I got after the small side of the back section. This way, if something went wrong, it was a back seat, and for me specifically, one that is covered by my kid's car seat for another few years. Number 2, save your money on special tools. Now, I mentioned the steam gun. It definitely would have made things a little bit easier, but I'm assuming that you could also use a light heat method like using a blow dryer or even a heat gun. I would obviously be very, very careful with this. Get too close, you're gonna affect the leather. But having a tool like that probably would have saved me a little bit of grip recovery, but it definitely is not needed. Same goes for the hog rings and the hog ring crimper. I almost bought this myself thinking I was going to need it, but it's really just a nice to have for a fully professional look. I have a lot of useless tools in my toolbox, one of them being a coax crimp and an Ethernet crimp that I actually ended up using, which is weird because it's no longer useless. When I did the security cameras of this house, I became an IT professional and crimped every head of the Ethernet cables to hook up to the camera. The more you know. So I really didn't want to add another tool that I was only going to use once for this interior and then never use it again. I mean, I might use it again if I do another interior that they have on one of these sites. So without the hog rings and the crimp, I just made sure to tuck those inserts into the grooves of the foam in the back seats and didn't worry about securing them to the frame itself. I can kind of get away with that because I have 2 car seats in the back, and those are going to be back there for many, many years to come. But I definitely don't recommend that if you are looking to have a professional looking DIY installation. Tying them down is very, very important, which is what I found out for the front 2 seats. When I started working on them, an idea came to mind to use zip ties. Ended up just cutting little slits into the Katzkin designed inserts and then zip tying those to what the hog ring connected the original upholstery to the seat with. Turned out perfect for the front seats. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And what was really great about this technique is you didn't have to shove a big tool into a tight space. You could just simply pull the zip tie tight and then clip the extra off and tuck the head down so that it didn't affect the seat quality. Number 3, remove all of the trim. If something seems wrong, it's likely because you forgot to unscrew one part of the trim or just decided to neglect it completely. I had a late night trying to install the front passenger seat. On top of that, I busted the zipper that ties the body section to the frame. This was because I ended up leaving one of the trim pieces on, as I think I stripped the screw, and I kind of just decided, okay, I'll just run with it and see what happens. And what ended up happening is the leather could not reach behind all the way and have the zipper meet close enough to zip it nice and easy. I essentially went for it. It popped the zipper apart immediately, and then it just slowly zipped down the end of it. The GoPro actually died during that whole entire process because I was up until 4 a.m., hence the tears. What? Fuck me so much, I just want me. Well, I'm hopefully gonna start where I got cut off by a dead battery. Luckily I have the audio. Start at the wrong spot. We know that I have no idea where that cut off. Number 4, that leads me to take your time. This goes without saying, but it is human nature to get a little overwhelmed trying something new with high difficulty. Popping that zipper wasn't the first thing to go a little wrong. Cutting the headrest port holes got a little bit loose here and there, and yes, you are going to have to make your own cuts, not just for the headrest ports, but for a lot of the other little bits of trim and certain spots where the leather wraps into the frame. It isn't too bad, just take your time. I felt for the whole of the headrest ports, cut an X with an X-Acto knife, and then cut a small box within the borders of the headrest ports plastic. Then you wrap it around, tuck it. About 80% of those headrest ports are perfect. 2 or 3 of them, gotta look closely and it doesn't look great. Number 5, wear some shop gloves if you can. I shredded my hands up a lot and lost a lot of grip along the way. This is really just, the leather is super tight. A lot of the times without a heat source, you're really fighting against the forces of leather and the seams. Leather is tight and some of the connections are intense forearm workouts. Gloves will not only give you that extra little bit of grip, but they will also protect you from slicing your thumb open. Yes, I got a nice little gash that I went to the hospital for some glue. It would not stop bleeding. I think my GoPro was still going. And yeah, it was, there's your blood. And of course, this was on the last bit of installation, which was my driver's seat. And I think I started to move a little bit quickly, reached behind, moved my thumb a little bit, and found a nice sharp piece of metal. Hello, focus on me. Just trying to show my damn cut. Anyways, and number 6. This one kind of goes away from the DIY aspect of it, but I do sort of recommend maybe taking at least the headrests to a professional. The one tool that I wish I had or wish worked a little bit better is on the 4th headrest, I decided to use my shop vac and put the headrest on top of it with a bag wrapped around a plastic bag. This was a technique I found on YouTube just surfing around, and essentially what that does is it sucks the foam into a tighter space so that you can wrap the headrest around it. It took some trial and error, switching around the different nozzles, because if you have too tight of a nozzle, it just sucks the point of the plastic and stops smushing it. I found one that actually left enough gap between the plastic and the headrest to where it kept shrinking it, and I was able to get the headrest on completely. Of course, with that said, the first one that I did with the vacuum, I wrapped it backwards and had to pull it all the way off. Luckily, the foam was still retracted enough to slip it on. The headrests were one of the most challenging parts, and some of the plastic can be a little bit sharp, which I ended up cutting myself on one of those too. With the headrests, you can get it on without extra tools. It's just a huge wrestling match, and that just also comes with the technique that's like each side down like a centimeter to an inch at a time and keep working it down. So if you don't want to go through that pain and struggle and find out for yourself, I highly recommend just finding a professional in the area and letting them use their tools. Hopefully they don't charge you a ton. If they do, obviously go for it. Try to get it done yourself. All in all, I am very, 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 very happy with this install. DIY rating, I'd probably put it in the mid to high difficulty area. It definitely was not an easy modification, but with that said, there is a high reward factor to this as well. So doing it yourself is really cool because you see sort of the whole entire process of removing the old stuff and then seeing this beautiful kit that just changes the entire look of the interior of your truck or car. They sit a little bit better too. The tight leather firms up the seat and it just looks so much cleaner in there. I haven't finished the installation of the heated seats yet. I did just put the inserts in and made sure they were in place. I have the wires poking out. I just have to hook up the switches and figure out where I'm gonna do that. I think I'm gonna potentially record that because I'm not gonna be able to do it anytime soon. I'll probably record it and do like a little mini episode of the install and then, you know, testing it out. But other than that, everything was super, super cool. The one thing I'll make sure to say is that if you do get gel inserts, I don't think it was said anywhere on the website, you should buy some contact glue, which I honestly don't even know what that is. I Googled it and it almost seemed like it was any kind of glue, but you wanna definitely get a glue that's friendly with foam and sticks with the plastic and doesn't melt through plastic like super glue sometimes does. This is so that you can get the gel pads to be in place on the foam and not move around when you get the seat on or you're sitting on it. I left them hanging around. I actually used the heated seat insert tape because it has tape on each side to tape them in place. Hopefully that works out. We'll definitely see over time. I use the authorized dealer autoseatskins.com to get this done. Really, really simple and easy website to run through. So for formality's sake, I do want to take this opportunity to thank autoseatskins.com for being a part of this video. They didn't provide a full kit for free or pay me to say anything nice about them. I genuinely loved this experience. It was great from start to finish. The install obviously was a little bit of a headache, but what part of customizing your car isn't an absolute headache? I don't think I've ever had a time where I'm installing something where I'm like, damn, that was a super simple experience. They did help make this video happen, so thank you. Links down below for where you can take a look and see if your make and model are available for install. And yeah, thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're new, consider joining the crew. We've got a lot of great projects ahead. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.